At the end of the day, we all have a desire to feel seen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when we don't feel seen, we go outside and we chase where we feel seen.
Josh and Christi, welcome back.
It's an honor to always be with you. We love it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's so good to see you guys and just reconnect. We live in this competitive world of achievement and success, especially in the West. I mean, we're just built for that. If you're not the A student, if you're not the quarterback, if you're not the gold medal winner in swimming and soccer, and then, you know, what's wrong? And it isn't healthy, and we kind of know why, but what does that look like to lower that stress and really concentrate on being famous at home, not just for the kids, but for the parents too?
Yeah. I think, you know, for us, the whole context of this message really came out of seeing how easy it is to pursue success outside the home and that individual pursuit. And everything in our culture is designed that way. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's designed for dad to leave the home, for the kids to go their separate ways, to the point that now we have, you know, individual trainers for our kids in athletics. And I don't want to make this sound like, oh, you know, we're shaming athletics and that. We're both athletes. We love sports. I think sports are really, really healthy. What I see it not being healthy is where we start to promote each individual person at the expense of the family unit. And that's where the heart behind this is, because that's what we hear all the time. We hear this from families constantly of, we're too busy, we don't have enough time, I feel like I'm not getting enough time with my kids, and just really asking the questions, are we prioritizing what matters most to us, especially when we look at end-of-life surveys, and you see that some of our greatest regrets were that we didn't live the lives that we wish we would have. We did what everybody else was telling us to do.
You know, it's an interesting human dynamic. We do go with the flow so easily. And you see that in so many ways. I mean, you can see it in an autocratic dictatorship country.
Yeah.
You know, people don't know what to do, so we just kind of herd mentality and we just kind of move, except for a few, that 10% that might fight that. And that's at that kind of level. But then down at the family level, at the household level, we're very similar. You know, we look up at the end and go, I mean, Gene and I often have said, you know, it'd be so great to parent over, you know, because we've learned so much and we've made a lot of mistakes. And it would be so nice to hit the reset and have Troy back at, you know, 2 and 4. And say, okay, how can we do this? But I guess that's the appeal for those watching and listening. If you have kids at home and your marriage, don't wait. Don't go with the flow.
And I think the thing that we're trying to do is say, take permission. Like, I feel like culture doesn't give us permission because we just have to fit the cultural norms. And then when you go out on social media and you go to Instagram, you get all these other places and you're seeing that, you know, the Joneses down the street, their kids are in X, Y, and Z. Well, then that means I should probably just get my kids in X, Y, and Z. And we don't think about why, or we don't think about the effects or the ripple effects that will have. We just do it because it's what we're called or what we, you know, believe we're supposed to do. That's what this is all about, is really honing in on being famous at home, because your biggest fans live under your roof.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day, like, that's what we all want. We want that connection.
Yeah. And, you know, in that regard, I've watched that research over the years. And one of the things that always astounds me, because of pop culture today, we have the impression that teenagers particularly are so connected to their friend base and to pop culture and their phones and all those things. But in the research data, teens will say the most important people to me are my mom and dad. The most important influence in my life is my mom and dad. I don't know that we know that as parents anymore, because there's just you know, so much competition for their attention. But in their hearts, these young people are going, no, my mom and dad are so important.
Go to any award ceremony. Actors, you know, Oscars, sports.
I want to thank my mom.
I want to thank my mom. I want to thank my dad. Like, it's like, that's who we're thinking.
Well, and that's the one place where you're irreplaceable, right? Like, and I think that's, I mean, for us, the message of truly what it means to be famous at home is recognizing, like, this is the one place that I am irreplaceable. My role in this family, you can't just sub me out. Whereas all of the things, all of the accolades that the world puts out there, and for mom and dad too, like, we're talking about kids and, you know, activities and such. What about mom and dad? Like, all of us are chasing something. Like, we're going after something out there in the world because it gives us a sense of, if it's significance, if it's a sense of safety, value, dignity, something that gives us worth. And
it fills a void that we have for some reason.
Yes.
That's the key, to try to figure that out.
Exactly. And what is that message? Like, what is that fear underlying that? Because it's driving us to chase something outside of our home, like outside of this unit that God gave us to steward. And it's really where the basis of our identity is formed.
In fact, the example in the book, and I, again, appreciate the transparency, Josh, but your dad had heart failure. He went into the hospital. And I so related to this. You tried to begin to fix everything, but it was at the expense of other things. And it is kind of that paradigm where I can do 4 things, pick them. I can't do 10 things.
Yeah.
But describe that environment, and then Christi, how you were engaging that, and what was the issue.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of trying to work and actually also, put food on the table. You gotta have a job. But in the middle of all that, we have 2 infants. So we have an infant and a toddler. The toddler's not sleeping. Christi is not doing well. She was really at what she called the bottom rung of life during that season. And then my dad has congestive heart failure, and his heart stopped working on its own. So they had to do a heart pump surgery. And all of this, it was like the perfect storm. It all just came at the exact same time. And me, I'm trying to manage my dad, his wife, my mom, my stepdad, I'm trying to manage Christi. I'm trying to, and I was just everywhere. And then also trying to, pursue my career, pursue our business,
do the things
that we need to do. And what I was doing is I was talking about a lot of the things that we're doing right now, but then showing up and not doing them at home the way that I was supposed to be doing them. And that was a significant moment for me to look at, man, what am I actually chasing here, and what really does matter at the end of the day? Because especially in that season, she wasn't doing well. And so when she's not doing well, I'm getting the brunt of her not doing well. And so that makes me want to, so then we get into a dance where I'm not wanting to engage her. I'm getting defensive because of the way she's treating me, but she's treating me that way because she's struggling.
Yeah. And for me, what Josh said before, I literally called it hitting the bottom rung of life. It was just, his dad went into the hospital. I think our daughter was 6 weeks old and our son was 2. And every postpartum mom knows what those weeks are like. It was just,
I got to get up. It
was awful. It was just, we were living, my in-laws, he's back and forth to the hospital. And I realized in that season, I felt so unseen. I felt so insignificant. He's out there crushing it and getting the accolades and the successes on, because, he'd travel and speak, and everyone's like, all the attaboys, he's getting those. And I'm at home, like in a baggy t-shirt, college sweatpants, hair back in a ponytail, no makeup on, spackled and pureed banana and sweet potato, because I was teaching our baby to eat food. And it was like this season of total hiddenness and insignificance. And I realized in those moments, what I needed for him to do was see me. I needed someone to say, what you're doing is significant. What you're doing matters. Because at the time it feels, all of culture says like, it's meaningless. It's like, go back to work if that's a struggle, put your kids in daycare. And that wasn't the fight for me. It was this belief that if I've been given these children and the Lord had asked me, I really felt clearly to stay home with them. And to me, it felt like I was sacrificing myself to care for these kids. And that search for significance is what the chase was for me in that season.
Christi, let me ask you this, because I can just feel, man, that how many moms have been there, are there right now, that are watching, listening, trying to listen, because they got 14 things going on. But
that's so real.
Understanding the significance, not listening to the culture. That ability to prioritize. Because when you think about it, taking care of those littles, it's the most important thing you could do. It's hard to feel that at the time because you're covered in banana pudding or whatever.
Pureed banana and sweet potato. But exactly.
How I just get this image of you like dragging your limbs through that kitchen going, Josh, I need you, Josh.
Yeah.
And him not responding well, and like you're withering.
That's it.
I mean, how do you muster that ability to turn to Josh and say, this is what I need from you right now? And Josh's ability to say, oh, rather than backing up, Josh, I'm telling you, with men, when we're in a tight jam, we just go compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, okay, we just back up because we don't know what to do.
Right. Or defensive, right? Where he would feel defensive because it's like, and I'm putting words in his mouth, but I've heard him say them. But he'll say, you know, I'm already giving everything. Like I feel like I'm crushing it. I'm trying to balance all these things. And then you're telling me I'm still not doing it well enough.
Yeah. And now we have an argument. Or I guess the point is practically for people that are going, I'm living it right now. What can they do? I mean, this is off script here, but.
These are the words that came out of my mouth. There was one day, and like truly the pureed banana and sweet potato, like it was a vivid day that Josh came home. He was working at a coffee shop that day, and he came in and he's wafting the smell of this like delicious latte that he'd had. And, you know, he starts telling me all about his day, you know, exciting people he talked to and projects he's, you know, working on. And I just burst into tears. And the words that came out of my mouth were, why do you never ask me about what's on my heart? And I shot them out like a barb. I didn't even realize they were in there. But that's when I noticed. It was this like, I feel totally unseen.
Yeah.
And I needed him to see me. And in that moment, to his credit, he didn't defend himself. He did not lash out or say like, you know, we've been in those rounds, right? We call it the dance, right? Where it's like, you know, then he gets defensive because it's like, do you not see what I'm doing? Like, do you not see what I'm... Never. I've never been passive aggressive.
Right now,
I've never. But he just held me in that moment. He just hugged me without knowing what to say.
It's because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's just like, let me just do the best thing that I... And the fact that you were okay to be held. Because there's times where you're just like, don't even touch me too.
Yeah.
For me, I think this is the key. And I think you have said it so many times, and I just want to clarify it. I think that at the end of the day, we all have a desire to feel seen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when we don't feel seen, we go outside and we chase where we feel seen, whether that's on social media and getting likes and comments, whether that's for board members, whether that's for clients, whether that's for employees, whether, you know, whatever it is, whatever your stage is, if you will, we try to feel seen. And if we're not feeling seen at home, that's where we turn outside the home to feel seen. And the whole point for us and with Famous at Home is to say, listen, your greatest fans live under your roof. And practically speaking, if I can just see what's going on within Christi's heart, get beyond the wall that she's put up, get beyond the dance, and just say, even that example of just holding her and going, tell me what's really going on within your heart.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Well, and it's a powerful moment because if more couples could do that, there'd be really powerful marriages.
Yeah.
Strong, especially Christian marriages, if we're doing this correctly. But I think even to your point, when Jesus walked the earth, that's what he did with so many people. Yeah. He saw them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the woman caught in adultery, the woman at the well, the Sadducees and Pharisees. He saw them.
Yeah,
he did.
And called them out.
Yep.
I mean, and so the point being there, I think that was one of the great illustrations that God himself was illustrating for us, is to see those who are close to you.
And it's so difficult to see when we're running ragged and our schedules are so full and we're so busy, and our kids feel that trickle-down effect.
And I think that's one of the other questions I wanted to ask you guys. We can verbalize these things. Many people listening and watching are in the church. We have a confession of Christ. We want to pursue the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, goodness, patience, mercy. But doggone it, these other things keep creeping up, like anger, bitterness.
Isn't it a pain?
So how do we, it's
human.
the lifelong struggle.
Yeah.
But I think that awareness, and then it's like I could hear it. I remember years when I heard it, I just didn't know how to get it into my heart and help it and make it apply to my life. So for those people that are in that spot, oh, Josh, that sounds great. Or Christi, I know right where you're at. But it's like, how do I get that, what I'm hearing, into my actions?
I think, one of my really good friends, mentor of mine, Jeremy Pryor, just recently was with him. And one of the things he said, he was very insightful. He said, you come to events, you come to conferences. We were in a mastermind group. And he said, when you hear new information for the first time, like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I wish I would, and it's new information that you didn't apply, that you learned, but you'd never applied it. Mm-hmm. He said, our first response should always be repentance.
Wow.
It shouldn't be just writing it down and taking a note and then logging, I'll go back to that later. It should always be, Lord, why have I not, and just saying, Lord, I'm sorry that I have not implemented
my
this.
ears and my heart have been closed.
They've been closed, and I'm sorry that I haven't been quick to listen, that I've been quick to speak, or I've been quick to anger rather than, than slow to anger or slow to speak. And I think it always starts with repentance. And so I'm going to say that first and foremost, for me, these most significant breakthroughs, anytime that Christi and I have an argument, or that I'm trying to be famous somewhere else and I'm not being famous to her, the most significant breakthroughs happen when I humble my heart and I'm repentant. And I'm seeking her forgiveness.
and
every
our
time.
Flesh works so hard to keep us from doing that.
Hates it.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Can I add one thing too? Because you said a word. You said awareness. It's awareness. Like what I realized in that, spackled and pureed banana and sweet potato is I had no awareness of what was going on within my heart. And that's where we've talked about that's what we came up with 15 minutes a day, where I realized I was in such a dark place and such a confusing place, I would say, because I wasn't aware of what was going on. And so when your anger's coming out like every which way and you're like, I don't even know why am I attacking you? And I talk to so many women and it's the same story. It's like we're so bombarded by all of the things. Our mental load is so much that we don't have time to actually process what is happening to us. Where have I gone? What am I even feeling? And so what 15 minutes a day became was this process of just inquiring and asking of one another, what did you feel today? Yeah. And it was one positive emotion, one what we call uncomfortable emotion. And it allowed us time to seek into the other's heart, but also for each of us individually to process really what we were feeling. Because otherwise, it's all you're getting is the reaction, right? Yeah. All the anger, all the
that surprises me a little bit because I was frankly kind of impressed that in that dark place you were, you had the ability, which I heard as a mic drop moment, to be able to say, I don't feel seen.
Yeah.
That is a concise, emotional expression. I mean, that would catch my attention. It obviously caught Josh. I think any husband that has any, well of ability would be able to say, whoa, I've got an issue with her. We need to do something. Yeah.
But what's interesting is it took me so long to say it.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's fair.
I wish I'd said it a year earlier.
And that's what I was saying. It was like a rock bottom moment. Yeah. And I think
that's how you get to that rock bottom.
You get to the rock bottom.
It's time. It's not like that day was the bottom of the earth and you came up with it.
And that's where 15 minutes a day, if you're practicing this of sitting down, just devoting, and sometimes it can be 5 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 15. But to sit down and devote time to just go a little bit deeper than the business of the day and just say, give me one positive feeling you felt today. What was one moment you were excited, happy, content, joyful? And then what was one uncomfortable emotion? What was one moment where you felt jealous or rejected or hurt?
And again, in that process, you feel seen. And there is a part of you that is filled up because, okay, I'm known.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is our deepest needing.
And it doesn't allow these big underlying things to get so big because they don't, it's like I was able to say it on a daily basis, not in 6 months' time when I am at the bottom of my rope. I will unleash on you of how unseen. And I think we do that. Like we hold things in thinking that we're helping in the moment. Like I don't want to put more on him right now. And all it does is just cause this swelling storm within. And that's what 15 minutes a day, just that little process has helped us get to the bottom of and just root things out quicker.
Yeah. And it's good to have that release valve.
Yeah.
I mean, because bigger, worse, more catastrophic things can happen, like an affair or something like that.
Hey, allow me to interrupt for just a moment here to say how much we appreciate you watching. Now, if you find value in this content, subscribe by clicking below. It'll be a big help to us. Let's go ahead and return to the show.
Christi, you wrote in the book about your honeymoon experience. I might as well, you wrote it, so I'm going to raise it. But You had this catastrophic argument. That's good that you got into the honeymoon. It was literally,
to date, it's been the biggest argument.
Boy, you just decided to have the big one right up front.
The last night of our honeymoon.
The last night. Okay, so what is it? And then you refer to it as the elephant.
Yeah. Well, it's what it was about church.
Yeah, that's great.
It doesn't have to be about bad things. I mean, it was
yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to defend it? Or
no, I was going to describe the timeline of that.
We get to see it all over again live here at Focus.
It was.
It was something we haven't even really talked about, I guess. So here's an example of what we call it the elephant. It's like you brush it under the rug and you pretend it doesn't exist until it comes out and you realize, oh, this is a huge thing. It's taking up a ton of space in our marriage or in our relationship. So we're just avoiding it.
That's what I was going to say, because we argued about it on the last night of our honeymoon, but we never really resolved it. So
we need to know the it.
Oh yeah. So basically it was that we had gone to different churches and we were dating, and I loved mine. I don't even know if he loved his, but he felt a duty to his, and he was serving in a role there. And he just assumed that after we were married, I would attend his church and just sort of fold in. And I was like, oh, like that just took me off guard. Like that was not where I felt at peace or joy. And I thought this was something we would do together. Like we would decide together.
Yeah. Rightfully so. Yeah. I was not, yeah.
But realizing, like, this is a great example of a fear that's underneath a chase, because for him, it was this fear of pleasing, like, these authority figures that he'd respected and was served under. And so for him to walk away from that role just because he got married, was like, the fear was that, I would then be sort of blacklisted or deemed irresponsible or
betrayal.
Yeah. And realizing this was a very new dynamic where it's actually prioritizing, like he's saying, the heart of me, my heart. And this is something that we do together as a team. And the voices outside, they don't get as much of a say anymore.
Yeah.
And it was I felt so unseen. I felt so disrespected. I think I felt so like my voice didn't matter. And it was like such a shock because it wasn't the Josh I knew. And I think that's what often happens. It's like you get married and you're like, wait, I knew you. What has happened? And this is what happens when fear takes over. We do crazy stuff. And it divided us. And it really became what we call the elephant in our marriage, because it was the thing we didn't talk about after that. Because it was like, I don't know how we address this now after this big explosion. And that's so often what happens with elephants. We're so afraid that if we touch on it again, it's going to,
And the fear and the insecurity were driving me more than focusing on her heart.
I relate to that. I mean, especially if you have that people pleaser bent.
Totally.
Which I can have. And it sounds like you might too.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I would just really encourage couples to do is look at your opponents. And when we say opponents, we say, what is that one thing that's coming in between the marital intimacy and your connection in your marriage? And that could be, it could be a good thing. It could be a new baby, it could be a job loss. It could be those types of things. But what is that thing, and how do we address it? How do we come together and fight for each other in it? Because when we don't name the opponents, when we don't bring them out into the light, that's when the enemy can use things even as good as church to put a wedge between our marital intimacy.
Let's talk about the 7 decisions to put your family center stage. We don't need to do them all, but let's describe a couple of those, or mention all 7, then dig into 1 or 2.
Yeah. One of those decisions is prioritizing or entering your child's world. So it's spending 20 minutes a day of command-free time with your kids. And that comes out of Stanley Greenspan's research on floor time, where you enter your child's world in a way where you're not dictating the play, you're not commanding what we do.
Floor time.
I
like that.
You're entering, and you can do this with teenagers, you can do this with any of your children at any specific age. And we have seen this over and over and over again, especially if you have multiple children. Again, it comes back to feeling seen. Our kids want to feel seen. Yeah. And this is one of those where we say, hey, if you take 20 minutes a day and you just enter into a child's world and do what they want to do, they feel seen. And we see behavior change from this in so many different instances.
Yeah. We just went through this because we just moved. And our 3-year-old is just acting out. like we got to our new place and it was just.
He's also in a terrible threes.
Yeah.
So we know that.
That was the twos.
Yeah, it's not. It's threes.
We think it's the three. At least in our house, it's the 3
It's
year
always
olds.
been a threes for
But
us.
it was just like, what is up with him? Like, where is all this behavior coming from? And I don't know. It's like it just slapped us upside the head where we realized, I mean, we homeschool. So I think we've been paying attention to the 11 and 9-year-olds because we have, keep coming up with their school. And
It's
they're
a little more demanding in a different way.
and they're very much aware of the move and, all of the change, and they're part of it with us. Whereas the 3-year-old, I mean, everything in his life just changed. And
He's going along for the ride.
He's just been along for the ride.
Right.
And
Unseen.
yes.
Yeah.
And we just realized it was like, I think he just needs time with us.
We realized this through an argument. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
We got in an
With each
argument
other. Yeah.
about
his behavior.
because he was causing so much disruption in our home. And it was
So we started blaming each other.
Right. It was his fault.
He's taking after John.
He acts like this because of you. But it was like, oh my goodness, he just needs us. And so like, what if we just focus on just being with him? Like, and the 20 minutes of command free time, it's actually really hard for me as a mom. I'll be honest. Like, cause it means they dictate the play. Like I'm used to being mom and being like, hey bud, let's do how about you do this? Like pull to the table. Let's do art. Let's draw. Let's paint. Let's whatever. And it's just, he wants to play trains again. And I'm always Percy. And, it's like, and
There's nothing really stimulating here.
It's just not. And
That's
yet,
the point.
we have watched within like a week's time. I mean, he's a different kid. And it was like proving it again. Like they just want you. And especially in such times of, chaos and disruption. And so it was just this was just this week. So it was a really healthy reminder.
And the whole idea behind Famous at Home, and we talk about this all the time on our podcast, is the greatest red carpet you'll ever walk is through your front door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you realize you are, to your children, you are famous. And that's why you hear your kids say, Mommy, play with me. Daddy, play with me. Play with me. Play with me. Or, and we're constantly busy, but we are their heroes. And they just long for time with us. And I think even if we can just give into that 20, 30 minutes, a day and say, you know what, this is, and for me, I've actually started scheduling it. I started to actually put it on my calendar to schedule it because I realized I was scheduling all my work stuff and scheduling everybody else, but I'm actually not scheduling them. And I need to do that.
That came home to me, not on the scheduling side, but the recognition of the red carpet. I like that vision. Mm-hmm. And, in this role, I get to meet a lot of important people, and I would go meet the president. Yeah. I mean, fill it in, W or whomever it might have been, especially when the kids were young during that administration. I'd have that meeting in Washington, fly back, and what I look so forward to, more than the meeting with the president, honestly, was Trent and Troy running out of the house, grabbing my leg, and me monster walking them in. And they're laughing and giggling. They're sitting on my lap, and we're talking and tickling. And that was far, far better. Yeah. No offense to any president, but
it's so
that's where I just loved it. I really, and it was genuine.
Yeah.
And at the end of life, you're not going to regret that you didn't meet a president. You're going to regret that you weren't there. And I think that's the thing that for us, we really want to champion for all families, is to say, let's really turn our heads inward to our greatest fans.
Let me ask you another thing that, again, it just was a great nugget I caught in the book on vectoring. I love, Gene and I binge Air Disaster, that series.
I've never heard of it.
I heard of it either.
But I'm telling you, it's always pilot error, ice on the wings. I don't know. But in that, I mean, there's a lot of vectoring discussion, and so I know it, but describe for the listener, the viewer, what vectoring is for a pilot and how you apply that to the parenting.
Yeah, because vectoring, I mean, a pilot is going to vector, which means they're going to make a small degree a turn over time that will eventually get that plane to its destination.
So they're not making a drastic.
They're not making a drastic like right or left-hand turn that just, takes the drinks and the food and throws it everywhere, and you're like, it's hard right. And I think sometimes we try to do that in our family, where it's like we make these decisions and we come home and we have this aha moment. Maybe we learn it somewhere, we listen to it on the broadcast, and we try to make this drastic, and everybody feels whiplashed in the house because it's like, you know what, tonight from now on we're having dinner every single night at 6:00, and we're going to talk about this and this and this and this. Everybody feels like whiplash. But just this whole idea that if you take just one small degree of change, just find that one principle you heard on today's broadcast. Just take one thing and just begin to implement it. And that over time, you will start to see a change in the direction that your family is heading in.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think, again, so often we think we got to do this drastic thing to feel like we're actually accomplishing it.
Yeah.
20 minutes of command-free time a day with your kids, 15 minutes a day of talking about emotions with your spouse. These things are simple and doable, and they have a different destination.
But they transform over time. Like, that's the thing with vectoring. You end up in a completely different place.
Plus, it's a cool word.
But it's a cool
It is a cool word. It is so
But
good.
I just think it gives a lot of grace. Like, I'm a type A, if it's like I'm the one who, like, I've learned the things and I'm like, we're going to do them all of them at the same time.
Because if we don't, we're failing.
Right. Totally. It's like I have 18 goals now and we're going to now, therefore, miss every single one. And so it's another thing. We just start with one. If that's like emotional, like, connection with your kids again, like you just want to get into their world, let's start with that goal and vector just a little bit toward that, because you can't come in all guns a-blazing. Like, nobody feels safe. Relationships aren't like that.
Yeah, and what's interesting there, though, and it catches me, how did you get there? Because you're saying, I was the 8-point person. When I got 8 things to do, I did all 8.
Yeah.
Because that's where I felt I got my
sticker. But then I failed at all 8 because you can't aim at 8 things and achieve them. And so that's where we realized, we talk about in Famous at Home, is set your first goal. Like, start with one, because goodness knows not one single parent out there needs another thing to add to their mental load of everything we're not doing quite well enough or could be doing a little bit better. So what is the one thing? Like, we just say, like, what's the first goal? And for me, that was taking care of me. Like, that was taking care of myself. And so mine was, I had to wake up early. Like, I know it's so simple, but I had to wake up before the kids. So I had time with the Lord. I had time to really process and get to the bottom of how I was, because I really didn't know, because I wasn't giving any time to it. That's where I started, was waking up early. And as silly as that sounds, over time, that changed a whole lot for me.
So if you go back to decision number 1, as Christi's talking about, it's really about showing up as the best version of you, because we talked about becoming, like, how do we become? So it kind of really wraps up, okay, who are we becoming as an adult, and vectoring. And so for us, it's just finding what is that one thing. And, Christi alluded to waking up early. For me, it's working out. When I wake up in the morning, if I don't get up early enough and work out first, and I don't get my stuff done first, and I'm waking up with the kids and, and the toddler and everything's going, like, I just am not this best version of me waking up, because in my brain, I'm already behind on everything else I need to get done. Whereas if I wake up and I work out first, I wake up with this sense of, like, good morning, everybody. How are you doing? How's your day? What can I get for you? Can we get some breakfast? And I'm now, rather than trying to chase down what I need to get done, I'm chasing down how I can serve everybody else. And I'm just showing up as a better version of me in the home for everybody else. And it shifts the atmosphere.
Allow me to interrupt for a moment to say how much I appreciate you watching. If you find value in this content, please subscribe by clicking below. It'll be a big help. Now, let's get back to the show. Another one of the 7 decisions is decision 3, listed in the book, but it's about your emotions. What is emotional intelligence, and why is it important?
Yeah, so for me, I really go back to what Peter Scazzaro talks about in Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, Emotionally Healthy Church, that you can only be as spiritually mature as you are emotionally mature. And when you look at emotion research and you look at who we're becoming, our ability to be able to identify what it is we're feeling is a reflection of how well I can step into the shoes of another person and identify what they're feeling. If I can't see my own, how am I going to see hers? Mm-hmm. And so this really comes down to, our brains grow from the bottom to the top and the right to the left. So the bottom is the amygdala. That's the fight, flight, or freeze response. That's our quick to anger, quick to speak. We're going to fight or flee the situation. But the higher functioning parts of the brain behind the eyes are your prefrontal cortex. That's the higher functioning parts of the brain. Emotion regulation, cognitive flexibility, judgment, social skills, self-control, fruit of the spirit, right? It's like, but that part of the brain doesn't fully develop until we hit about the age of 25, which is why rental car companies are smarter than politicians.
Right.
But as parents, we have the ability, as we enter into our kids' worlds, to build that part of the brain. And the reason is because the brain also goes from the right to the left. So the right side of your brain, that's the here and now experiential part of the brain. That's what you're feeling in the moment. The left side is your linguistic side. It's where we put language to what it is we're experiencing. And the middle part of the brain is the corpus callosum. I like to call it the binding of the book, because what we're doing, we all have a story to tell. But when we fail to identify and put language to what it is we're experiencing in the moment, we have what's called a disintegrated brain, and we can't identify, therefore, what we're feeling or how that person made me feel. And we have a lapse in judgment then on people around us, situations, all that type of thing. And so our ability to identify what it is we're feeling and connect it to experiences in our story is what wires our brain, not just for connection, but also for problem solving, self-control, and the like. And so this is why we talk about, decision number 3, talk about emotions, is to make emotional vocabulary common in your home, not just in your marriage, but also with your children.
Yeah, it's good. In fact, Christi, I think you had an example in the book with your daughter, Kennedy, who was, kind of acting out a little bit, and you put this to work. How'd that go?
She's our deep feeler, but she's also our one who she'll keep it in for a while. Similar to mom. Funny. Until it explodes. But yeah, there was one day she was just acting out, and which is uncharacteristic for her. Disobedience wasn't really her thing. And so at bedtime, I was finally like, honey, what is going on? Like, I'm trying to get to the bottom of, because this isn't you. And it all came out in tears of how we'd been at a birthday party, and she'd been rejected by these girls. They'd excluded her and shut the door and not allowed her to come in. And she felt so rejected. And I had pulled out, part of that story is I'd pulled out a feelings chart, because she was pretty young at the time. And so I was like, point to what you're feeling. And she pointed to angry, and then she pointed to sad. And it was this connection where she even realized her own anger that was coming out at me was actually this deep sadness, because she'd been rejected by these little girls. And, so often we just miss that, because we correct or we discipline away the behavior, thinking that our kids are just being bratty, I think. And so often, I think we've all heard that sign. It's not, our kids aren't giving us a hard time, they're having a hard time. And I would say there's a lot of truth for all of us. We know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not reacting because I'm just trying to disobey. I'm reacting because I'm really hurting there's something hurting in me. And it was just really powerful for us as a family to recognize the power of naming emotion. We talk about it in marriage on the last episode, but it's just as important for our kids. But so many of us never learned it as kids, so we're learning it alongside of them. And for some, like, if this is new to you, like, a feelings chart is silly. It appears silly. It's faces that just
happy face, sad face. I used to draw them for the kids.
Yeah,
because I didn't have the chart.
Yeah,
I should have gone online. That's how dense I was. But I'd put up all the faces that I could think of. Embarrassment.
Yeah,
draw embarrassment.
Yeah,
I tried to.
Embarrassment, and that's like, that's a deep one.
Yeah,
when you're embarrassed, like, we react in crazy ways.
Yeah, and I think the point of that is I'm thinking of teenagers. That are really screaming for that. When we look at it, it's rejection with their friend group, with school, something that was embarrassing. And we pounce on it as parents because we're seeing defiant behavior. And what they really need is someone to hear them and understand. And the problem with that, though, Christi, is they need help to be able to express it. Because they don't even know what it is sometimes. Even teenagers.
Yes. We're all learning this. And that's what I think the gift is that we're living in a generation that's at least a little more aware and willing to talk about emotion. And I think that's really healthy.
I think that's been a great thing for the culture. You go back to the builders, the boomers, that kind of thing. It's like, we don't talk about nothing.
Right.
Christi, let me ask you this. And, the shoe goes on either foot on this, the husband, wife. But, typically someone's spontaneous in the relationship. The other one's the kind of the planner. And talk about arguing, And for me and Jean, I'm the spontaneous guy. She's the planner, very methodical. I always laugh. People know that have listened to the program. She's a chemistry grad. So I'm the marketing grad. So you can imagine it even fit in what we did vocationally that way. But, that can cause a lot of grief. And really, in the end, we're probably some of both. But what was your experience with that?
Well, it was interesting because as a new mom, I think I railed against everything that was structured, like all of the I think my life felt so out of control that I was like, oh, let's just go with the flow. Like, let's just be spontaneous. I can't control anything. Like,
I affirm you in that.
I can't control these. They don't sleep when I want them to sleep. They don't. So I was like, let's just be spontaneous and go with the flow. And then it was, Josh came in, and he's quite structured. And it was like, I think we need to develop some rhythms in this family, and I was like, I don't know when I get breakfast. So like, I don't know when I'm going to ever get time for myself. So it felt like a pipe dream, I guess. And
impossible to attain.
Really,
yeah, I get
truly.
it.
And so we realized we really did need rhythms. Like, I needed rhythms.
Yeah.
I needed some sort of rhythm of predictability, because you go crazy if every day looks different, and you go crazy if every day looks the exact same. And so this has been the process of putting into practice rhythms in our weeks. And that's been probably the saving grace of our family, of giving the kids, especially, when the world went crazy, when we switched to homeschooling, like just so much instability, it gave us this sort of pattern to our days and our weeks. And I've come to love it now.
Hey, Josh, in that regard, being a structured person, I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, in that, seeing that and applying rhythms and talking to Christi about it, I mean, that's got to be a bit of a dance.
Yeah.
When you have unstructured and structured coming together.
Well, and I think it took a little bit of time because, some of this rhythm stuff for me came from a group, Jeremy Pryor, group of guys that I do life with, who really started mentoring me in this whole idea of rhythms. Going back to Genesis chapter 1, I mean, rhythms were God's idea. I mean, you even look at every single day, at the end of the day, God is saying it is good. He's looking back on what he did and what he created and celebrating every single day. I mean,
there's so many rhythms in life, in nature that he created.
Yeah.
So many rhythms. And the first one that we really started honing in on as a family was Sabbath, because that was the rhythm that he created. As soon as he created Adam and Eve, what did Adam and Eve do the first day they were alive? They rested. God allows, he gifts us rest. It's a gift from God. And yet I don't think we're taking it in our culture. We don't take it seriously. We're like, well, that's an Old Testament type of thing. And the reality is I think it's been the single greatest rhythm we've implemented in our family is Sabbath.
Yeah.
And we started there. And it took some time to implement and do. But now we were at a point where, and if you read this in the book, we have every single day of the week named because we have this rhythm in our home where it's almost like a bell curve, where it's like we go really, really hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday, we start to come down off of it. We schedule Thursday nights as our date nights. Friday is coming down into Sabbath, and then Saturday's when we Sabbath, and then Sunday's starting ramp back up again. And we do that so that our kids they understand what the rhythm is.
Well, they get a rhythm.
They get a rhythm. They have a rhythm, and it's just something. And of course, there's times where it gets botched a little bit, but we always keep defending the rhythm, and we keep coming back to it, because it's what brings our family life. It's what keeps our family sane in a lot of ways. And it's what also keeps us connected, to be very honest.
What name would you give Tuesday?
Tough Tuesday.
Tough Tuesday. That's a good name.
It's the biggest. It's the height of the bell curve. It's the day that we are. If I'm working late, or if I schedule any meetings late, the kids know that's the day that's the height of the bell curve. That's Tough Tuesday.
No, that is really good.
And again, I'm the one who railed against it, but it has given us so much life. And I've realized, because now Fridays, we clean on Fridays because we have a Sabbath on Saturday. And it's really nice to be in a clean home on a weekend where you can,
true.
For a mom, the moms are like, you can't rest. And so it's just changed how we've structured our life, but what it's done is it's grounded our kids and us.
John, that rhythm concept sounds like a great idea.
It does. I think all of us can have a few more boundaries in place, and that provides safety and structure.
Well, there's so much good stuff in this content from Josh and Christi's book, Famous at Home, 7 Decisions to Put Your Family Center Stage in a World Competing for Your Time, Attention, and Identity. Get a copy from us here at the ministry. Make a monthly pledge or send a one-time gift of any amount, and we'll say thank you. by getting this book right out to you. Famous at Home is a great tool for your marriage and for your parenting, and I hope you'll partner with us so we can share this with even more families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, so click the link in the description below, or if you'd prefer to call us, our number is 800, the letter A, and the word family. And if your family is traveling our way this summer, swing by Colorado Springs and our headquarters here. Jim, we've got a terrific campus. We love seeing people visit. There's time to let the kids run a little bit at the Welcome Center.
Like 2 stories worth of that.
Indeed, and we've got a great soda shop and a really world-class bookstore. So make plans now to join us here in Colorado Springs as you travel. And thanks for watching Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.